Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Ask Me Anything Love and Sex Show with renowned relationship and sensuality mentor Rebecca Beneteau. We are live every Thursday evening from 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. EST. This is the place for real conversations about subjects that matter, such as your love life. So take your shoes off, get comfortable, and get your questions ready for the call-in section of the evening. Here is Rebecca.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Ask Me Anything Love and Sex Show. I am, as ever, your Rebecca Beneteau. Today is Thursday, May 23rd, and this is my first show in my fifth decade because I turned 50 on Sunday. Let's hear a woohoo! Happy birthday to me. And I had a wonderful day at the spa yesterday, so I'm all relaxed and juicy and here for all of you this evening. Now, I want to tell you that we're still talking about the topic I had mentioned in last week's broadcast, which is the man-woman game and how to win it. But if you were expecting Judy and Colin from Lafayette Morehouse, unfortunately we won't be having them today. They were too busy getting ready for a trip to New York. And I want to mention that for those of you in New York or driving distance too, there will be a basic sensuality course taught by the faculty of Lafayette Morehouse this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. And if you want to know more about that, you can go to New York More Courses. That's nymorecourses.com. They have a few seats available, and you can get some of the great Morehouse information that I'm always talking to you about straight from the horse's mouth. But I was so lucky that when I realized that Judy and Colin couldn't come, that I was able to get another guest who is also really accomplished in this topic. And my guest tonight is Lisa Carrillo. And I'm going to tell you how I first met Lisa. I was at a Mark group, which is a social evening. We were up in New York, and this woman, petite, pretty, brunette, pixie haircut, and the best word I can use to describe her is radiant. She was just full of joy and excitement and turned on energy. And I thought, wow, I'm going to get to know her. And what I didn't know was her backstory, and that what I was doing was meeting her right in the middle of a 3-year time period that she devoted to learning about sensuality and relationships. And she came from having an MBA and worked in the corporate world, and she was halfway through a master's degree in psychology when she discovered some sensuality researchers and thought, that's my path. So she has devoted herself to that research, and she now, by her own admission, has a body more responsive to pleasure, a mind and heart more present and clear, and ever-deepening orgasm. Well, who doesn't want that? She went on to found her own coaching practice, which is called Loving Our Love Life, which can be found on her website, www.lovingourlovelife.com, where she coaches and also does workshops. So please help me welcome to the show Lisa Carrillo. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Rebecca. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, I'm so excited to have this time to chat with you about what you've discovered in your journeys as a researcher into relationships and sensuality.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to speak with you, and yes, this is definitely my passion in life.
Great. Well, let's start at the beginning. Where did you start your journey? Like, how did you evolve as a sensual researcher? How did you get started on the path?
I started out my sexual life a little later. I didn't have intercourse till I was 21, and it started out painful. And I thought there was more to it than what I was experiencing, and I always had this fantasy that I would be able to go to a sex therapist who could show me everything. And so I was married for 11 years and wasn't able to figure these things out. And then after I got divorced, I was doing a lot of meditation and really wanting to become more and more present. And I ran into a man who had been trained in clitoral stroking. And the way we met, we were at lunch, and he was asking me all these relationship questions. And as he asked me them, underneath it was this assumption that I had done everything right and that each relationship had served me for a particular purpose. And my idea was that I had had a series of failures. So I asked him, where did you get this training? And he explained that he'd studied not just relationships, but also how to stroke a woman's clitoris. And that caught my attention. It immediately linked in. And as he described it, I realized that it synced very much in with my path of being more present and fit my goal of having more pleasure. So I immediately asked him, well, he asked me, was I interested? I said, I'm very interested. How could I have that? And he said, well, I can do it. And I said, great. How much does it cost? And he said, it's free. And I said, okay, great. When can we do it? He said, this afternoon. I said, super. So I went to his
moss grows
apartment.
on you.
No, exactly. I went to his apartment, and he stroked my clitoris, and I couldn't feel that much. But what I could tell was that there was way more potential there than I had ever felt, because how he was stroking me was completely different than anything I had experienced before. And he wasn't at all trying to give me the traditional over-the-edge orgasm. And there was this whole new realm of sensations that I got a peek into. So I was hooked, and I started dating him because I thought that's what I needed to do to get stroked regularly. And I was also fascinated by his sense of approval of me and his understanding of man-woman relationships. And within a month, I quit my job and went and spent the $20,000 to get completely trained in how to feel more and how to open my body to expand orgasm through my whole body.
One of the things that I love about this story is how much of a yes you were to receiving this attention and this offer from a total stranger. Like, were you always like that? Were you someone who was eager to say yes to opportunity?
I have definitely been an adventurer for sure. Yes, so I would say pretty much. I mean, I've had different levels of restrictions that I've reduced throughout my life. So definitely there's a lot more yes in my life the older I've gotten than there was, say, when I was a teenager.
So
but
I think it would be great.
I feel fundamentally that we're safe in the world.
Right. So there was something safe about him. And can you tell the listeners like a little bit more about how the date was? That you said you went to his place, he stroked your clitoris. Was he clothed? Was he not?
Yes.
Like, I think that's a really foreign idea. I understand what you mean by going to have like a sensual research date with someone who just performs this, but I think for other people it's really foreign. So maybe we can demystify it a little bit.
Oh, yes, thank you. So, yes, he was completely clothed, and I just pulled down my pants. And I lied down on the bed, and he just explained what he was going to do. He was going to use lubricant. He wasn't going to kiss me or cuddle up to me or massage me or touch any other part of my body, just my pussy deliberately. And for a specific set amount of time, I think it was 20 minutes, something like that. Maybe it was only 10, I don't remember. And so he made sure I was comfortable with pillows under my legs so that I could just totally relax and receive. And the first thing he did is just look and describe what my pussy looked like. And notice the coloration on my labia. And then he told me each step what he's going to do. So he told me I'm going to put some lubricant on, and he spread that on. And then he said, now I'm going to stroke your clitoris. And he put his finger on my clitoris very lightly and deliberately, and I could tell he was feeling all the curvatures of my clitoris as he stroked me. And it was very slow compared to anything frenetic that I had done to myself, masturbating. And he incorporated pauses. Like you could tell he was building kind of a symphony. You know, it was like deliberate building. And then when he was done, he just used a little bit more pressure and kind of calmed my pussy down, just relaxing me. And then I put my pants back on.
Sounds like fun. Now, I know when I first encountered this, it was really kind of hard for me to recognize that I could enjoy that and not owe anything in return. Did you have any of that in your experience?
I did wonder what did I owe in return, and he was adamant that he was feeling into my body and enjoying my pleasure, and I owed nothing. And I believed him. And he lived that out completely. He didn't want anything back.
Right. So ladies out there, this is a possibility. I think that there's some aspects, and we're going to get more into talking about this in the man-woman game, that where I know I certainly grew up thinking there was always a price tag. If a man took me out for dinner, I had to sleep with him. That's just what you did. And it was definitely an eye-opener for me when I began to realize that what I owed was my enjoyment of his company, of my meal, of that gratification was the payback.
Yes, right. That's so true. I think women don't understand what it's like to be in a man's body because we turn on easily. Things turn us on. We can have a thought that turns us on. We can see something beautiful. We can get excited about our friend, and our body just turns on. So we go through these cycles of turn on all the time. Men, primarily, their bodies turn on because there's a turned on woman around. So there's this thing in them that loves to be around a turned-on woman because that's where they get their biggest jolt of turn-on. And we don't know what it would be like to not have turn-on coming so easily into our bodies without having a man's body.
Right. So women manufacture our own turn-on. And can we also pick it up from each other, from other women?
Yes, definitely. And there's scientific studies of that where they show pictures to a woman of a man that would be considered very attractive, a woman and a couple, and while the woman will say that they're more turned on looking at the man, when they measure her physiological responses, that's not the case. She's more turned on looking at the woman. Turn on transfers through a woman's body as a source.
Wow, that's fascinating. So you went on this journey. You invested $20,000 in learning how to receive this kind of stroking. And what would you say you learned throughout this process? What did it bring up for you?
First and foremost is approval. Being stroked is a practice of each sensation, pulling it into myself and seeing it as part of the bigger symphony. You know, if you take a symphony and say, oh, well, I don't like that direction, it shouldn't go down now, it's supposed to be loud all the time, or it should be fast all the time, you won't get an interesting symphony. You pull each part in, and while stroking is a very particular practice in order to learn that, approval is the underlying principle that applies in relationship all the time. It's approval of myself and approval of my partner.
Right. I want to just take a minute to pause because I know a lot of people listen to this show after the fact. You might be listening right now on your iPod or on your computer, and, just check in with your body, because I'm noticing, Lisa, listening to you, that I can really feel the sensations. I can feel my crotch coming alive, and that's, I want to just demonstrate what you're talking about, that we have that opportunity in every minute, right, to pay attention to what's going on and feel it and approve of it. And I imagine that was also part of your process, was noticing what was going on with you in each stroke along the way.
Yes, exactly. And approving of my journey, approving of the areas where I was still scared to admit what I wanted, approving of the areas where I wanted more than it seemed like was possible, or approving of the areas where I was still compromising. Whatever there is part of the journey. It's just like when a baby is learning to walk, we don't say, oh, he fell down. That's wrong. He's not supposed to fall down. No, that's part of the process of learning.
Right. That seems like such a giant task, though. I mean, how do we become more approving of ourselves? Those places, like you said, where we're not living up to our expectations, or we don't have our life the way it is in our mental pictures.
Yes, right. How do we find approval? Well, usually there's some place where we can find something we approve of. Just today, I am always learning this. Today I was realizing that when I start a relationship, I imagine it in its full potential, all the possibilities it could possibly be, and I act from that place to make sure that seems like it's where it could go. And then as I get to know the person, I discover how much of that will work and how much of it won't. So it turns out that some of the messages I give early on are not as straightforward and clear, because they're based upon this fantasy I built up in my head, and I'm learning to be more straightforward. Now, I would love to have learned this one already and have it down, pat, and final, but I don't. And so I could say, well, Lisa, now I've misled somebody again. What am I going to do about this? And I could be disappointed in myself and upset and whatever. Or I can say, wow, look, I've been trying this strategy. It had some benefits, because everything we do had some sort of benefit that we were hoping for. So we can start with finding the part that's right, and then being gentle with, okay, and now I'm going to learn and add and change and move on. That is humanness. We're innocent in what we're going for. We're so innocent. We have no idea how innocent we are.
And one thing that I find works for me is that I might not approve of myself how I behaved in a certain situation. So it might be better for me not to even look for approval in that place, but I can pull back and find approval for myself in some other place. And then from there find another approval and another approval. And as I build on it, I start to approve of myself more and more. And then maybe I can go back to that kind of sticky one and find things right about that situation, about how things went.
Yeah,
Does
that's
that make
another
any
way
sense?
to do it. Right, exactly. Wherever you can start is the best place to start. Wherever you do find approval is a great place to start.
Right. And I remember, the first time I did the exercise of looking in the mirror at myself and having to only name things that I approved of. And, the first time I started with my fingers. and my eyebrows. And now I can look in the mirror and love my thighs,
Yes.
So
that
give somebody
is lovely.
something to grab onto.
Exactly.
Well, so how does approval function in the man-woman game when you're relating to the opposite sex?
Well, I would say one of the things that men most find missing in their relationships with women is approval. Men oftentimes feel like they do not know what makes a woman tick, and everything they try, it doesn't seem to work. And when they find a woman who approves of them, that really stands out. So, and once a man feels approved of, it unleashes his generosity. So a man just feels bigger and stronger and more generous. Just his heart opens when he feels that the woman approves of him, that she fundamentally knows he's on her side no matter how many mistakes he might make along the way. So a woman approving of a man is just a huge thing. It's so empowering. It's so loving. It's so relationship building. It's so affirming. And then vice versa. Women have seemed like mysteries. We're mysteries to ourselves. I mean, we have wonderfully cycling hormones, so we have this very interesting ride we're always on. And we tend to have this idea we're supposed to be predictable and steady state and whatever, and so we don't approve of ourselves, and men find us mysterious, and from that place we're just stuck in this trying to catch up all the time. But when a man approves of a woman and says, hey, of course you're like that, and I'm curious about you, I know you had a good reason for whatever you did. Let's explore. When a man is in that kind of an approving place, you are adorable. Let me understand you. Wow, the woman just relaxes and opens and turns on. It's just so juicy.
Absolutely. I can totally, when you said that, I was like, oh, yes, that's what I want, for my guy to say, you're just so cute and I'm so curious about you. Yeah. Rather than, are you crazy? You're not being rational. What do you mean? That makes no sense. Which sometimes happens. So the flip side, so the side for women is approval, which unleashes the man's sort of heroism and generosity, and the flip side for the man is to be loving and curious.
Yes.
Would that be accurate? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Which is another form of approval as well. There's David Data's got an exercise, and I'm not, well, we're not going to go into that, but let's just say that these sentences rang really true for me. The woman says to the man, I trust you, I open to you, and the man says to the woman, I love you and I see your beauty. And Mark and I actually have that inside our wedding rings, because I think that validates what you just said. Yeah, and we really should have put it on the outside of our rings. We would be reminded to employ that, when we get into the sticky spots. Yeah. Right.
So let's say more, because
we want
about
the sticky spots. We want them. Who
They're
would
exciting.
go to a movie where everything just stayed flat good? We would not go to that movie.
Right. Yep.
We want
Absolutely.
the challenges. We want the surprises. We want the drama, the unexpected to be able to explore. And that is for us to approve of, too.
Right on. I hear you. because we don't only go to happy movies. We don't
No.
like romantic comedies. No,
Well,
you know,
even
we go
a light romantic comedy is not happy all the way through. There's always some challenge. There's some problem to be resolved. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a story.
Right. What would be the point? Absolutely. Now, you said that men have this inherent heroism and generosity, and I'm thinking of one of my girlfriends who feels like her man never wants to give her what she wants. She says, "Can we go do this?" And he's always a no. So what kind of coaching would you have for someone who finds themselves in that spot?
You know, she's with him, so I'm assuming now and then there is somebody who has had so much pain in their past that they're fairly paralyzed. But if she's gotten to the point where she's with him, I would say then that he must not be one of those people. So if she's with him, something that he has done shows her that he loves her. She can look around in her life and see things that are in her life because he's there. And she probably is not appreciating those things very much yet. So she reminds herself how much he already has demonstrated to her that he loves her. Then she comes to him from a place of, I am so loved by you. This is so great that we're together. Let's make it even better. Let's add on this. And that's a totally different type of request to make than a request from, oh, we aren't doing enough, I'm not getting enough, this is just not, you know, there's missing stuff. And a guy like that, receiving a request from that place is already on the alert. I'm probably going to fail. Nothing I've done so far has been successful. Why should I invest again? It's going to fail. It's not going to be good enough.
Right.
So he'll play it safe.
Right. No is safer.
Right.
Than yes and failing and getting beat up. Got it. Right. Yeah, I can definitely feel the difference in that request. Like, I remember I was living in the Yonkers Moore house, and I had to learn how to be more acknowledging. I was really stingy. This was a really hard muscle for me. I had to build it up. And at the time, the house mother said to me, you know, I was like, he doesn't deserve for me to be nice to him and tell him how good everything in my life is. And they kept telling me, you're not doing it for you. For him, rather. You're actually doing it for you. That when we start acknowledging how good our life is, our life gets better. And maybe the guy comes along and maybe he doesn't, but it's not like something you do to give them, I don't know, some sort of unfair advantage. And they were right. You know, the more I practiced it, the more I saw how good my life already was, the better my life got.
Yes. Oh, that is so true. Yes. I've been in that place with a guy where I just kept seeing the next thing I wanted, and I could feel him starting to resist or starting to feel overwhelmed. And I just stopped and said to myself, Lisa, maybe this is love. Right now, this experience, this is love. And as I looked around at my life, it is. I am so loved. Now it's just obvious to me all the time. I am so loved. I just have people who want to listen to me. I have people who care, who want to spend time with me. There's so much evidence of love. And the amazing thing is it now just keeps coming more and more. Yes. We're so loved. We're loved way more than we know. But the thing is we tend to have a status quo of how happy we feel we can be and how loved we feel we can be. And we will stay within that status quo. If you think about other people you know who's a happy person or who's not so happy person. There really isn't a gigantic range people move around in. There's a pretty steady area where we're at. And if we want to deliberately change that, it's something that takes focused attention. We can increase our capacity to feel joy. We can increase our capacity to feel love by actually deliberately noticing more things that are good in our life, feeling them, and when we start to run out of our capacity to feel joy and love and go back into complaining, push ourselves past that point of discomfort to feel loved and feel joyful a little longer.
Wow. That's very interesting. To when we notice ourselves start to go down, just a little bit. Can you feel joyful just a little bit longer?
Right.
Like I never really thought about it. That like I know there's a ceiling for how much money people think they can have. So you're saying there's an amount to a ceiling to how much joy and love people are willing to have.
Yeah.
Oh. And so the way to grow that capacity is just a little bit at a time. Like,
Right. Just when we're starting to feel like it's not there, the reason to be joyful, the reason to feel loved is not there, stop a moment and notice the reasons that are there. And just be happy, feel loved a little bit longer.
Okay, I'm going to try this for myself because I seem to have hit my ceiling of how good it could be, and then been noticing everything that's not right. And yeah, definitely have been noticing. I mean, one of the things that I do to increase my capacity for happiness is that I do anonymous good. And I have found that. And the other thing that helps me is writing thank you notes. Because that sort of forces me back into a space of gratitude.
Right. Oh, that's great. You must really feel a lot from doing that.
I do. I absolutely do. It definitely helps me digest how good it is. And my life has become increasingly better and better. But it takes a deliberate investment of energy, don't you think? Like it's easy to go down. It's the path of least resistance.
Isn't that the funniest thing? Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the reason it is when we are in a joyful state, we are approving of the world as we're flowing through it. And there's very little division between us and everything around us. We actually start to feel a certain amount of merging. When we're feeling good, there's just this natural connection with the world, and we have this increased merging. And our identity is not as solid in our consciousness at that moment. We're actually experiencing love and joy more intensely than we're feeling our identity. However, when we make something wrong, when we're saying this isn't enough, I need this should be that way, our identity is very strong because we're creating a definitive structure, a definitive outline of what should be that isn't. And that separates us. And our identity gets very strong in those moments. And so that's the easiest thing for us to do because we like to create our identity rather than to release ourselves into this more unknown, fluid relationship with the world.
Yes, because I can feel it as you say it. There's something a little scary about that.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a releasing, there's an accepting, there's a opening that challenges our sense of definition.
Mhm. I mean, it's simultaneously exciting to think of being that expanded and that connected, and at the same time sort of frightening to be that expanded and that connected, because the little me that I know, I know it. It may be painful, but I know it. Right?
Yes. Yes. That's the thing. When we start prioritizing pleasure, the little me does get scared, but at least there's this reward. So our little me starts to diminish, but we get happier and happier. And so that's what I have loved about taking on pleasure as my path for spiritual growth, because that's the choice I'm constantly making. Am I going to choose to go for joy and for pleasure and feeling good, or am I going to choose for my little me? I love that term. And at any given moment, I can say yes, and I can take the risk. And the result is a reward. It might be scary, but at least there's a reward. So, I mean, no other spiritual path that I know of gives such an immediate reward every step along the way, where the more I let go, the more I get to experience joy.
And just breathing that in, the more you let go. And the difference, I mean, I'm thinking about pleasure versus sort of other spiritual practices where it's about kind of discipline and stillness and quietness. I mean, how would you contrast? Because I agree with you that pleasure is a spiritual path. So for people who are like, well, how could that be? Can you say more about?
Yes. So the more aesthetic ways of growing spiritually, where we stay in stillness, which there's certainly a place for that. I wouldn't throw that out for sure. But if you're doing only that, then the process is one of leaving the world behind and finding what is there when there's nothing else. And that's great. You know, ultimately we do find that core of being that's always there when nothing else is there. However, pleasure is another way of finding that core of being, because pleasure demands that we find that source of inner joy, which turns out to be being. Because pleasure happens when we follow each moment without expectation. So we're still, it turns out, letting go completely because we're having no expectation. But so we're letting go of the thing that is what really matters. It's our attachments, it's our expectations, it's our judgments. All of that we still have to let go of. What we also get to experience, though, is the moment-by-moment sensations. And those are pleasurable.
Right.
Now, of course, sometimes we're experiencing something that's not so fun. It's painful, it's whatever it is. But the moment-by-moment sensation is at least an interesting experience, an interesting ride. What makes it suffering rather than pain, now somehow I've got us going off on a very philosophical bend here. But what makes that moment-by-moment sensation convert from pain into suffering is when we've lost our expectation. We've been attached to something and it didn't happen. Our idea of what should be didn't happen. Right. And now the little me is disappointed. Right. But if we're without expectation, without attachment, we are immersed in the moment-by-moment sensation. And it turns out most of the time it's pleasurable.
Right. Right. I mean, I can totally see the parallels. I mean, it's a sense of mindfulness. It's just, what are you mindful to, right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
It's so, and it's for me, like you said, that the more ascetic kinds of meditation are about leaving the body behind, and I think that pleasure, when you follow pleasure, you're in your sensations, you're actually going into your body and still finding the place that's there when nothing else is there. When you let go of judgment, you're still letting go of judgment, expectations. Same bunch of stuff has to be let go of.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I think it's totally cool that we're getting all philosophical, because I like to tell people that I'm kind of a sex geek. I'm really fascinated by the underpinnings of what makes us tick and what makes us turned on by what we're turned on by. And I think this is giving me an idea to segue into because not all of us are going to have someone walk up to us in the coffee shop and say, I am trained in this method of clitoral stroking. Would you like to come to my place?
Right.
Right? So, when you're meeting somebody new and you're in this game, and maybe they don't fit your pictures of what you think you're turned on by, how can you find sensual pleasure with someone new? It doesn't fit your pictures.
Oh, yeah. I think this is the most fun thing to do. Each person that I meet, of course, there's the 20% that there's just no connection and not a whole lot's going to happen. But 80% of the people I meet, there is some potential with them that we can enjoy something together. And for me, it's like a scavenger hunt. It's like, what is this person's unique gift? What is this person's unique perspective on the world? What is the thing that this person's fascinated by that they can introduce me to? I am just so curious to experience the world through their lens, through their body, through their experience. So as I get to know them, I'm going to find that. I'm going to find some new window that they get to be the one who shows it to me. So, and that's only going to happen if, while I'm with them, I'm experiencing myself in relationship with them. So if I stay outside saying, okay, well, I'm evaluating this person, I'm judging this person, I'm going to see if they fit my checklist, then I'm on the outside and I'm not even encountering them. I'm not even making contact. At the end, there'll be a definite no, because nothing vibrant happened between us because I didn't open myself up to engage them. So when I'm meeting somebody, I'm already at the place, we're in relationship for right now. I am open to you. I am experiencing you. I'm treasuring what we can create right now and seeing where could that go. And then afterwards, I'll feel and register what were the things that we explored, what were the things that we resonated, and then afterwards I have the information to decide, okay, what's the next step with this person. And I'm not trying to find Mr. has every single thing on my list. I'm enjoying celebrating what I celebrate with one person, having somebody else I celebrate that with, having somebody else I celebrate something else with, so that it's a full rainbow of experiences. Great.
That's great. I love that. Just every person you meet, who are they to you? Who can they be to you? What can you do together? Instead of coming in with, I know so many women, there are no good men out there, they tell me. And then, I'm like, well, what are you looking for? Well, he's got to have, a six-figure job, and it's this age range. And I'm like, well...
They're developing very good critical skills, but unfortunately those are not the skills that help you find a guy.
Right.
Approval skills are the skills that help you find a guy.
Right.
creation.
And what about guys? Because I think guys have a lot of pictures, too. They're like, she's not my body type. She's too heavy. I'm not sexually attracted to her. So what should guys be looking for if they want to win with women?
Women, what guys really, really want is they want the turn-on, really. I mean, when they're with a turned-on woman, they're getting most of the things that they want. And so what they're looking for is what is the key to this woman's turn-on, so that whether or not we have another experience together at this moment, how can we have the most turned-on experience? Because once she gets turned on, we're going to be having fun. So noticing things about her, when he stills his mind and just looks, the things she's proud of about herself will pop out. The more he's just silently attending to her, he will start to notice things about her. He will ask out of the blue, the right questions will come to his mind, and as he starts to tease out those things that she's proud of, those things that her passions, she's going to start to turn on, and she's going to feel noticed. She's going to feel alive and joyful. And as she's turning on, he's going to start to have a great time.
Right. I love that. I mean, that really bears repeating. If a guy pays enough attention to a woman and is looking for the thing that will turn her on, he will have a good time. That doesn't mean you have to take her home to bed. You don't have to date her ever again. But having the most enjoyment in that moment, that's the key.
Yeah.
That's so great. Right. When I met my husband, I think that he was in that, because he said that he was in a phase of flirting with every woman he met.
Yes.
And I love that about him. My husband, to this day, treats every woman like a potential partner and finds things about them to flatter them with and sees the good in women and reflects it back to them. And it's a really lovely quality, and I think that's what attracted me to him.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yes.
If women were fully turned on, realizing how easy it is to direct men. Once a woman is turned on, she's got endless desire, endless opportunities. Men will be filled with joy to participate. We would not have any time for war.
Right on. I always say that. I don't think it's any accident that suicide bombers come from countries where the women are the most disenfranchised.
Yeah,
Those
right.
are not happy women in the Middle East where their guys are going off to blow themselves up.
No.
Right.
Yep.
Well, I think it bears mentioning, I'm assuming you feel the same, and maybe you don't, you can contradict me, that we're the ones that are responsible for finding our turn on and coming up with it. Like, I can't sit around waiting for my guy to make me happy.
Right.
That's usually a loser. It's really usually a loser for me when I'm, waiting for him to do something. I got to get into my happy place first and then come out with an invitation.
Yes. Oh, my gosh. When I was married, I didn't know any of this, and I thought that I was going to keep my guy happy by cooking and cleaning and making a good paycheck. And fortunately, he was a wonderful friend to me, so we had a really great friendship despite what I was doing. But once I got that turn-on is going to happen with me if it's going to happen, suddenly my whole priorities shifted. Keeping a clean house went way down in my list when I started to realize that it's how turned on I can be is one of the biggest gifts I can give to the people around me. That just totally rearranges how I spend my time, how I listen to myself, how I prioritize my activities in the day. I mean, yes, I totally agree.
So how can a woman who is in that space of having a lot of shoulds, I should be doing, how can she begin to make incremental changes in the direction of her pleasure?
Yeah, baby steps, exactly, baby steps. I'd start with adding in 2 things a week that she really likes and taking out 2 things a week that she doesn't.
Mhm.
It can be making sure that she's getting her favorite music in the car when she's in the car, or adding in time for massage or long bubble bath or whatever is her favorite thing, adding that in each week.
Mhm.
It could be getting a new piece of lingerie. It could be taking time to lotion her body in front of a mirror. Whatever it is, it just makes her enjoy herself. It's really, turn-on is our natural state. One of the things I like to compare it to is a cat. When a cat is in all its catly glory and it just slinks out on the top of a bed, you just can't walk by the bed without petting that cat. There's just this attraction to the cat, loving its catliness. That's all it is for a woman to be turned on. It's not revving it up. It's not pushing herself to do anything. It's quite the opposite. It's a direction of just settling into, ooh, yes, I love my body. This just feels so good. It's this settling feeling.
Well, I hope all the women on the line are settling into their catliness.
Yeah.
I can picture it. Odalisques reclining throughout all over the world.
Exactly.
Gorgeous. Well, we have 8 minutes, but I want to make sure that I don't get suddenly to the end of the hour without having mentioned a couple of things. So first of all, I'll mention your website again, which is Loving Our Love Life, not plural, lovingourlovelife.com, and that you're having a sensual, loving, and intimacy weekend, June 14th to 16th, right?
Yes. Yes,
and
thank
you want to say a little something about that?
Yeah, so this weekend is looking at our mindsets about pleasure, looking at our mindsets about our rightness and approving of ourselves, looking how we communicate with our partners, our desire in a way that is coming from an approving place, and then talking about specific techniques of touch. And by the end of the workshop, they can practice those techniques of touch clothed or unclothed. It's completely up to them. On a particular part of the body, we teach specifically clitoral stroking and penis stroking, cock stroking. But like I said, you can do the whole workshop clothed and learn the techniques of touch. You can practice it on each other's hands. It's a very technique-oriented part of touch, not trying to create any kind of sexual intercourse thing going on, nothing like that. It's all just hands on a person's body. Okay, so that's June 14th to 16th, and people can get in touch with you through the website if they're interested in that? Yeah. Okay. Exactly. And then there's a women's workshop, Women's Desire Workshop, July 20th to 21st. Oh, and by the way, these are in New York, right? Yes, the Central Love and Intimacy is in New York City, and the Women's Desire is upstate, and I've forgotten the name of the city. But my website will have that shortly. And so that's a 2-day workshop, and it's about women being able to tune into their pleasure center. So it's how to be connected to their desire, how to be comfortable with desire before it's fulfilled, and then how to build pleasure in their lives. And also how to build pleasure with a man. Yes, exactly. Or with a partner. It doesn't have to be a man. It has to be another woman. Okay, well, that's great. So we got that mentioned because I didn't want to forget about that. And I want to mention also that you can go visit my website, Wise Wild Feminine, to find out what's going on there. It's funny, you're a perfect guest for me because we have very parallel passions. I'm also all about women
tapping into their desire and their pleasure centers and bringing that up. And I am bringing 3 sexological body workers and educators to Philadelphia in June 10th and 11th. So you can check out Wise Wild Feminine for more information about those courses. And let's see. Oh, I do want to talk about who's going to be up next. I think that she's actually a friend of yours. Sherry Testerman from the Welcomed Consensus is going to be on the program next week. And we're going to be talking about... Yeah, she is. We're going to be talking about orgasm is a journey, not a destination. So this is going to be more deliberate about the clitoris, about deliberate orgasm and mindful stroking and finding and the path of pleasure as a path of enlightenment. So that's going to be
great.
Yes. I'm really lucky person, Lisa. I get to do this every week and just talk to some of the smartest, hottest, juiciest people. This is what I dreamed my life would be like. I just want to sit around and talk about sex and have sex all the time. That's all I want to do with my life. And maybe eat nice fruit. So I consider myself very fortunate. So that's going to be us on the 30th, and then the following week, June 6th, we are going to have Pamela Madsen from the Shameless community, and Pamela and her cohorts, Ron and Will, are going to be talking about the arousal principle and how to have orgasmic energy in all of your encounters. So that's what's coming up. So anything that you want to say that we have gone far and wide, Lisa. This has been great. Anything that we haven't talked about that you'd like to mention?
Sure. The man-woman dynamics are the most fascinating, complex game you can play, and it's full of subtle interactions, and we can always communicate more and more. But I want to just add in the clitoral stroking is something that makes it extremely tangible and is a truth barometer. Once I started having my clitoris stroked every day, I could feel by how responsive my clitoris was whether or not I was making choices that were in alignment with my true desires. So even if I could somehow come up with my mind that this is what I should do or blah, 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 my clitoris would never lie.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that many people will find that, get your clitoris stroked every day. I mean, sex maybe, but it really can sound very odd. And the man-woman dynamics, so many people are playing that game and wanting to find something that gives a little bit more clarity. And I can tell you that my experience is that if you want something that's in black and white that tells you if you're going in a direction that's working or not working, your clitoris will tell you. It will be responsive or it won't be.
So what do you do with that information once you have it? Okay, so you've got this information. You're going up or you're going down. Then what?
So then I realized, wow, I was not as responsive today. What's going on that I need to deal with? And I can feel in my body where there's a tight spot, and I just sit with that tight spot, and I realize, wow, I'm feeling anxious about this. I'm feeling like I compromised there. I'm feeling like I haven't totally said the truth about that. And I just go ahead and get it handled because I'm at that point. I'm at a decision point, and things are going to continue to get better or they're going to get worse. And things don't just stay static.
Right. So you can get it handled so that you can be having more fun.
Exactly.
Well, that is a great place to stop because we've come to the end of the show. It's time to detumess. It's time for us to come down back into our bodies. I want to thank you very much for being with me, Lisa. This was a lot of fun, and I just feel like I got to know you so much better, and where you've come from and what you think about things. And I think that it was a great gift to our listeners.
Thank you, Rebecca. You are such a joy to speak with and share with. Thank you.
Okay. Well, until next week, my friends, I hope that all of you have a wonderful, juicy, pleasurable, lit-up week. And if you're not, take a few moments and figure out why, and then you can choose to do something about it. Good night.
Good night.